eyes do not deceive you, my dear subscribers. This is a new video. And definitely not a video I was planning on making because I'm still very busy making all the other videos that I have promised and will deliver. So make sure you hit that notification bell and hit subscribe now because I've got a lot of special stuff planned for the rest of the year. I'll explain in the voiceover where I've been, what's been going on and why there's been a big lull in content on my channel of late. But it's all for very good reasons and it's actually going to work out a lot better for the channel because I've now got loads and loads of stuff to post very soon. So in this video we are going to be drawing Venom, one of my favourite Marvel characters probably. So I saw this little guy looking at me on the shelf the other day and he inspired me to make this video. As some of you arty types might know, during October there's a thing us artists sometimes partake in called Inktober. You basically do a drawing a day for the whole month of October. I'm always too busy to do it. I think last year I managed something like 3 or 4. This year I decided to start with a Venom picture, and as I was doing it I thought, you know what, why not film it and throw a few other mediums in there and make a quick video, and during that video I can explain what's happening with this channel and hopefully I'll be able to show you some tips and tricks that you can try yourself with various tools. So to start things off I will start with a tool rundown so you guys can see exactly what tools I'm using, what paper I'm using and everything in between. Let's go! So I'm going to be using a number of different pens during this image, mostly pro markers and these pens I discovered recently called Spectrum Noir, which are really good. They're dual tipped like the pro markers, so you've got the thin nib and the, what's it called? The fat nib. Same with the pro markers. Chin. These pro markers are great for building colours up in layers and stuff like that, so they're awesome. I've got a white uni paint marker here. It's the thin tip one which you press down. These graphic paint pens which are pretty good. A graphic line painter. And of course Faber-Castell black fine liners. I'm also going to be using these Prismacolor pencils. I usually stick to acrylic paints and pro markers, but I do sometimes use pencil crayons as they're a quick way to get some basic colours and shades down. And in this video you'll see why pencil crayons were a very quick and effective way to get the basics down before I went in with the markers. And paper-wise I'm using this black pad. The paper's a lot thinner than I expected. It's only 135 GSM, so it's quite flimsy. This pad was wrapped in plastic when I bought it and I wasn't able to feel the paper. But yeah, I should have just used my eyes and seen, but it was thin. Hopefully this will be of interest to you, and whether you like the character Venom or not, there's hopefully still going to be some techniques that you'll discover in this video that you might want to try yourself. So I'm going to be going between voiceover and the live talking I was doing while I was drawing. So let's get started. And we are off to a great start with me chomping on gum up close in the camera. So I'm starting here with a white pencil crayon just to sketch out the basic composition, and when it's looking a little bit more solid then I can apply a little bit more pressure to strengthen the lines and flesh out my image a bit more. I was hoping to draw the entire image from this angle so that the camera was straight on, but it became very uncomfortable quite quickly, and I was drawing from a side angle and it felt very unnatural. I've always struggled to find a comfortable seating position when I'm filming, and when I do find a comfortable position I always find my head's in the way of the camera, so oh well. So I'm just using a grey Prismacolor pencil here just to add a few basic highlights to the character, and that will help me get a better sense of things. Alright, what I'm going to quickly do here is just use some masking fluid just to protect a few areas before I start colouring Venom in and adding all the details and things like that. I want to add a little bit of a background texture, and I want to be quite free with the way I apply it and not have any restrictions, as in me trying to paint in, say, an area of colour and then having to avoid the head. So I'd rather just mask off the edges and then I can just sort of whack colours down and not really care about whether I make a mess. It's not ideal to be using masking fluid on this paper as it's quite thin. I did a little test on the back and it has left a bit of a blemish, as you can see. I've just put some pencil through that blemish and it doesn't seem to affect the way the pencil goes on the paper. Again, this is just going to be a quick fun piece, so I'm not too worried about imperfections and things like that. So a quick word of warning, masking fluid destroys brushes, so use cheap or old ones when you're applying it. You'll see in my next videos where I have had a few masking fluid disasters, and on thin paper like this you can expect a little bit of warping where the fluid is applied, so apply it sparingly or just use thicker card. I'll leave it at that. This brush is now dead. Oh no, I've got masking fluid all over my gloves. Okay, I'm just going to use some cling film now to cover the rest of the image. The good thing about using cling film is that it's transparent, and when you're throwing down textures and splatters and things like that, you can see the image underneath. So cling film is a really great way to cover a large amount of area quickly, and I can still see the image underneath. So when I'm throwing down splatters and colours and things like this, I can do things to complement the image, rather than work blind if I had a sheet of paper, covering this or something like that. Another great thing is that if you've been using a little bit of masking fluid like this, the cling film really sticks to it. So I can literally just slap on the cling film and just scrunch it up into the position I need it in. As you can imagine, if I was pouring masking fluid all over this, not only would I ruin the paper, I'd be wasting an awful lot of masking fluid. So, top tip. Alright, so I've got no preconceived ideas of what I'm going to do here. I'm literally just going to use this old toothbrush, put on some white ink, and just start flicking and just see what happens and work instinctively. So here goes. I find splatter effects like this really effective. I mean, even if you're a portrait painter, a little bit of toothbrush splatter can add some great skin details and textures to a face or a body. It gives the impression of pores and little blemishes and imperfections in the skin. Obviously you get a much finer spray when there's less paint left on the toothbrush. I'm really hoping I don't regret this, but I'm feeling inspired. I've got some white car spray here, so I'm just going to do a little blast in a few corners and just see what happens. I'll start up here. Get some more of a haze. That seemed to work okay. What happened there is, this is like a bit of a thinner spray than the ink I was flicking with the toothbrush, so it's added a kind of mid-tone grey throughout these sort of areas, which is quite cool. I'm still feeling reckless, so what I'm going to do now is grab a paintbrush and just literally splat some paint down, and hopefully if I get some splatters going in that direction, and it will just make things look a little bit more dynamic, and textures look cool in paintings. I'm not a massive fan of really slick polished art. I like things to look grungy and textured and organic. So I'm going to quickly throw down some paint now. Wish me luck. Okay, that didn't quite work as I hoped. Maybe it's too thin. I think I might need a thicker paint. So I've just mixed up some white acrylic on a coffee cup lid. An old brush, hopefully. That's what I kind of want, that sort of speed line there. Oh my god, there's paint going everywhere. Let's hope my girlfriend doesn't come back. You're probably all thinking, what the hell is he doing? I'm kind of thinking that myself. I do get a little bit carried away when I do this sort of stuff, because I usually am so precise and detailed with what I do. I kind of relish these sort of moments where I can be really loose and spontaneous. Alright, now I'll stop. Whoops. I highly recommend working in a controlled area. The hell did it get over there? Okay, I need to run into town quickly, so I'm going to let that dry. So when I come back I can remove the mask, see what we've got to work with, and then just use pencil crayons to get the basics down. Alright, let's peel this off and see what we've got. Carefully remove the masking fluid now. Should just peel off. Comes off pretty easy, like a nice big bogey. That's cool. That actually worked quite nicely. You can see obviously a few blemishes where the masking fluid was. So the pencil crayons work quite nicely over that still. So the next stage now will be using these pencil crayons. So I'll start with the skin, and then I'll start working on the eye and the mouth and things like that. I find working on black paper is a great way to give yourself an advantage when it comes to keeping quick drawing simple. If I was working on white paper here, I'd probably be spending a lot more time thinking about what details, shades and highlights I need to do. But when I work on black paper, I find I focus more on just what needs to be there, highlight wise and detail wise. And on a piece like this, where I only want to spend an hour or two on it, it's a good thing to have less options to obsess with. I actually started my career in art as a t-shirt designer, so I was doing lots of art for clothing lines and brands, and literally 99% of the time I would be drawing a design that would have to work on a black t-shirt. So I'm very used to working on a black canvas and using black to my advantage design-wise. So I'm literally just grabbing colours from the pencil box right now. I'm not really giving too much thought to anything here, I just want to work fast and spontaneous colour-wise. Time-lapse really emphasises how much my hand jumps around an image when I'm throwing down shades of colour like this. I don't want to focus too much on one area at this stage, so I just subconsciously jump to different areas with a colour. I find I can quickly get a large amount of tones down, and I'm basically just prepping the image for the next stage, and it all feels like minimal effort. I guess the drawback to working on black paper is that you can lose a lot of the vividness of colours, especially pencil crayons. But there's a few little techniques I'll be showing you shortly, which will, bring those colours back up and give things the vividness they require. At this stage, I've sadly lost my drawing glove somewhere. I'm so used to wearing it when I'm drawing and painting now, it just doesn't feel right when it's not on my hand. So I'm just resting my palm on a little cloth I got with my iMac to clean the screen.
Okay, it's looking rather rough at the moment, but I've got it at a stage now where I can take it to the next level with some pro markers. So the next stage of this video I should be able to make this look a lot more dynamic, more textured, work on the shadows and things like that.
So recently I decided to try and keep my art supplies organised, and I bought a couple of toolboxes, but in no time at all it all becomes a big mess and everything's just piled into one box.
I'm so happy right now. I just found the drawing glove in the linen basket. It got mixed up with some socks. It was the last place I looked. I've been searching for like the last hour, so back in business.
So now I'm going to be using the Spectrum Noir pens and Pro markers, and I'll basically be picking out details and shadows here. The rough pencils I've put down so far have pretty much given me a blueprint of what I can shape and bring to life by adding shadows and details with the markers now. And as you can see, when I start putting these markers down on top of the pencil crayons, things start to come to life a bit more and look a lot more vivid. So I'm just using a cool grey here to add some shape to the veins and the skin folds. The great thing about these pens is that you can build them up in layers. They tend to dry a little lighter than when you apply them, but that's quite advantageous when it comes to building up the layers. So I'm just jumping back in with a pencil crayon now just to add a few more textures to the top of the head, which I can shape with the markers.
Okay, I'll be coming back to shading the rest of this with the Pro markers and other pens, but I'm just going to start using some gouache paint here. This is just a white. I just want to start working on the teeth and the eye and the white sort of spider emblem on his chest. When I've done the eye and the teeth and the spider emblem with the gouache, I'll be able to tell how far I can go in terms of the highlights and textures on the head and the body and stuff like that. Using this old tube of Winsor & Newton white gouache paint. So let's get this done.
So I like to use a little gouache paint as it's easy to use in conjunction with the other mediums I've been using here. It's water soluble as well, so you can thin it down and rework it after it's dried. I find this white nice and pure and bright too. The camera is actually making it look a bit more vivid than it is in reality though. I love how effective just a few dots of white can be on a tongue or in a mouth. It's an easy way to give the impression of wetness and slime. Obviously the teeth are looking quite bright here, but I'll be toning those down shortly with the markers. Typically monster teeth are white at the tip and they go darker towards the base of the gum. These pens are going over the gouache quite nicely. Smaller fine liners can get ruined though, as I find the nibs dry up from going over these sort of layers of paint and pen. So I try my best to leave all the very fine details I'll be doing with fine liners to the very end, as everything's dry then and there's a little less risk of destroying or ruining pens. So I'm just using a black fine liner now to add some depth details and strengthen the lines, etc. I wouldn't normally add a black outline around my images, but from a stylistic standpoint I think it will work in this image. So I've just been rummaging through my box and found a cheap baby blue gel pen. So I'm just using that to add some bright blue highlights. And now it's time for the white highlights. So I have a few pens to try here, but I'll usually end up just using a brush and some white acrylic ink for these sort of things. So, and here I wanted to darken the top of his head just to separate him further from the background. And I'm using a little magic colour acrylic ink here. It's quick drying and easy to use in conjunction with the other mediums. So I'm just using a pro marker here to strengthen the outline. So as I was doing this, I decided that the white splatter was overpowering the image a little bit. So what I'm doing is using a marker here to soften it all by colouring over the entire area and sort of set it back into the background a little bit. So I messed that up a little bit. I'm sitting at such an awkward angle to try and not be in the camera. I almost feel like I'm drawing from a weird distance, making it very hard to be precise. And now to finish off, I just want to use a little bit of acrylic paint to bring some shape back into the teeth. Just a few key highlights and bits of saliva and drool and things like that. So as I was doing this, I thought, why not add a little bit of a drop shadow? So I'm carefully adding an outline to where I think the shadow would fall, and hopefully this will help separate him from the background even more.
So this is kind of giving the impression I wanted. You can still see the textures of the splatters and things like that I put down underneath. They're shining through. So it's sort of giving the impression of a shadow. Hopefully it'll be as effective here as it is here. So I've just done a couple of layers there and I'm approaching that sort of shade I want. So I'll do the same now here and then see what needs to be built up and where. Alright, I'm not sure how well it's picking it up on camera, but it's sort of working. I'm now going to go back to the original grey because that's left a little bit of an outline from before, which I want to get rid of. So I'm going to go over the whole thing now with this grey. Not too worried about going over the outlines of Venom because what will happen is when I re-strengthen these lines and tidy things up, they'll pop out even more against the darker background of the shadow here. And you know what, I think I'll leave it at that. What I'll do next now is scan this in so you can get a decent look at it. Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope if you're new to the channel you will hit subscribe and hit the notification bell as well so you know when I post a new video. We've got loads of videos planned for the rest of this year, full painting tutorials and all kinds of vloggy type stuff as well, which you'll hopefully find interesting. So far this year has been really busy for me in terms of art projects, commissions, and I did an exhibition recently as well, which took up an awful lot of my time. I'm going to be spending the majority of the rest of this year focusing on building up this channel. When I'm filming myself painting, I find I slow down the whole painting process by 4 or 5 times, which means I've been multitasking lots of projects and filming them, and that's kind of why videos haven't been getting made. I'm covered in cat hair now that Panda's left the building. So I'm currently editing together a number of videos for this channel. Some are going to be very long, like the one I've mentioned in the previous update. That video is currently sitting at 4 hours, so I need to trim the fat on it and get it down to about 2. So when you're a full-time artist, everything's a bit of a balancing act. And making YouTube videos like this is a very time-consuming thing, so I'm trying to find that balance where I can be uploading regular content as well as getting all my commissions and personal projects done. So I just want to say thank you so much to my long-term subscribers who have been patient with me. And welcome to all the new subscribers, and don't forget to check out the other videos. Please share, comment, like, subscribe and all that sort of stuff, because it will help this channel in the long run and give me an indication of whether this is something I should be investing my time into. I'm definitely not expecting to become a full-time YouTuber, but I just kind of get a weird enjoyment out of making videos, and even though it's very time consuming, it's also quite satisfying, which is ironic because when I upload the video I never want to watch it again because it just makes me cringe like crazy. But other than that, it's a little hobby of mine which I will hopefully get better at. So I'm also going to be investing in some new camera equipment and some new audio equipment, as I want the productions to be a lot more slicker. But anyway, let me know if you have any questions down below, if there's anything you want to see in particular. I'll do my best to get back to every comment. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos, and whoever you are, wherever you may be, take it easy, stay safe, and I will see you very soon in the next video.